and welcome to the Romance Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail C. Martin and Morgan Brice, and tonight we're talking about beach romance. But before we launch into that, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Layla.
Hi, I'm Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance, heavy on the rockers, shifters, bikers, daddies, and littles.
All right, Stacey.
My name is Stacey Agdern. I write, excuse me, I write contemporary and paranormal romance centering Jewish characters and really cool stories, whether it's hockey players or a small town festival.
And BJ.
I'm VJ Allison. I'm an Indigenous romance author from Nova Scotia, Canada, and I focus on mostly contemporary stories set in my home province with 5,000 miles of shoreline. So there's a lot of beaches. And I also have a paranormal horror romance out.
Okay, and Jeannie.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeanne Adams. I write urban fantasy, paranormal romantic suspense, and space adventure with my friend Nancy Northcott.
And I'm Gail C. Martin and Morgan Brice. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But I've got several series that are set at the beach. So several of you have been with us as we've done panels on vacation romance and summer romance. But now we're narrowing down to just beach. What is it about the beach that's romantic, considering it is very possible to get sand in uncomfortable private places? Layla?
Well, it's funny.
I had to go there.
I grew up off coastal Massachusetts. And so I grew up in New Bedford, plenty of coastline. At the time, my favorite thing to do after school, we got out at 1:50 every day. First thing you do when the weather got warm or was still warm at the start of the school year was you headed to the beach. And for us, it was West Island Beach, which was actually outside of Fairhaven. And we'd drive up there, and whoever had, a license in a car, we'd stop at a little corner store on the way up, grab, hot dogs and stuff for s'mores, and just sit out on the beach with like our guitars and homework and whatever we've got to read for class, and we'd just be out there. And my first love and that was our spot. Dates on the beach, walking, holding hands, watching the sunset, playing in the water. I had 2 Labrador retrievers that would run along with us. There was a jetty that stretched out. We'd go walk on that, sit off. Sometimes we try to fish. We try to eat the little prairie winkle thingies that were on the rocks. And, it's just always been, I grew up on an island, actually on Guam. So the beach was always my go-to place. So once I got to New Bedford and having a beach nearby, I was like, this is my go-to spot. This is the date night, the Valentine's spot. You could spread rose petals out on a picnic blanket, light a fire, don't light a fire, have food, don't have food. There's so many options on the beach. So that when I started writing, it just became okay, the beach is my go-to location. Any chance that my characters are coastal, there's one date scene that's on a beach.
Okay, Stacey?
So I grew up not far from a river, the famous Hudson River. And during the summers, it was perfect to go down there to sort of sit, watch the water. But beaches, generally speaking, have met me at formative moments in my life. In my 20s, my trip to Europe put me on the beach in Deauville in France. It was, the only people who knew me was my family. My relatives were there. But there was sort of a sense of inhibition there. People that I didn't, I could enjoy the sand and the water without thinking about anybody else that might know me from back home. As I got older, I discovered the beaches of Long Island where a whole bunch of friends of mine live. The sort of, again, but like the instead of it being a solo experience, being the place where you hang out with your friends as an adult. The cotton candy of the fair, but also like, stepping your toes in the sand, having a good drink, you know, relaxing as the sunset comes up, you know, as the sun goes down, relaxing in the water, or by the water, reading a good book with, you know, with friends. And then my best friend lives in Southern Virginia, so Virginia Beach. And how loud it is when everybody is down there. And how much of a party it becomes when a lot of people are sort of down there and enjoying themselves. And like, you know, it's so it's interesting to capture like the fact that like the sand and the water can be the same place, but like means so many different things in different stages of your life.
Interesting. BJ?
I grew up in Petite Riviere area of Nova Scotia. It's this tiny little community with about 4 or 5 beaches within walking distance of each other.
Wow.
I spent most of my time on Crescent Beach, which is one of the few drive-on beaches left in Canada, and or Restor's Beach, which is a very well-known provincial park here. But there's also Green Bay, which has a lot of cottages, and there's this big canteen there that everybody loved. And we were always down there, or if we were at Risser's, we were like hanging out around the canteen over there, and everything like that. The beach played like a huge part of my life growing up because we were always down there every summer. I still have memories of peeling from sunburns from being on the beach with my friends and everything. And ironically, my husband and I had our first kiss on Crescent Beach. So that plays a huge part for me. And recently we've been going to various places along the Bay of Fundy, which has the highest tides in the world. And there's just something so magical about standing up on that last goodness barrier, like that last landing before you go down to the sand on Blomidon Beach, and just watching the waves, like watching how far the ocean is. It's just, there's just something so romantic and so magical about it, and seeing the sun setting over Scott Bay up on the Minas Basin. It's just, I don't know. There's like I said, we have over 5,000 miles of shoreline here, second smallest province in Canada, and we have probably the most coastline next to a place like British Columbia, which is one of the bigger ones. So, I mean, for us, the beach is a big part of life. And
Mhm.
it's probably one of the best parts of it, if you get what I mean, right?
Absolutely. Jeannie?
Oh my gosh, I come at this from a completely different angle. So first of all, I got to say, VJ, if I didn't already want to go to Nova Scotia, because I have since I was about 8 and read Anne of Green Gables, you are like should work for the tourism board because I would want to go. Okay, so the beach to me is romance and mystery and all of those things because I grew up in the middle of the North Carolina mountains or in the Midwest because my dad took a job in Ohio when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. So beach, I'm thinking no. But it had this great mystique, right? You had movies and shows and books that were all about, the summer meeting at the beach. I mean, Grease, right? One of my favorite musicals. It's the whole beach romance before they come back to school. And there's something sort of so primal about the ocean and so primal about sunrises and sunsets. That's something very, I think it just is so primal for us as humans, that ocean tide, the water, the planets moving, the sun, the sunset, the sunrise. I think we're always drawn to it, even if we're terrified of the ocean. I'm not, but some people are. They're still drawn to it. And I think we as writers can use that. So it's an effortless setting in a way because you can say it was romantic because the sun was setting, and literally everyone who's reading your book knows exactly what to picture, right? Seagulls are crying. Everybody, even if they live in Iowa, knows what that sounds like because it's been romanticized in books and movies. And so it gives us a wonderful shorthand as writers. But also, I mean, as my fellow panelists have said, what the heck is not to love about the beach? Sand notwithstanding in places that you wouldn't want it. There are ways to avoid that, standing up. I mean,
Mhm.
but
House.
yeah, but yeah, beach house with a deck, kind of nice
Mhm.
option. But there's so many ways in which it connects us to people, and I think that it makes for not only for just us a wonderful place to go write, but for our characters and for friends and lovers, it's just a wonderful setting because it's primal. It's easy to say to somebody, the beach had this certain smell. And unless you are from Iowa and you've grown up there all your life, you may not know what the smell is, but you know what the sound is and you know what the other things are. So yeah, I just think it's so primal and cool, and it's universal for all of us. You've
Yeah,
said a bunch of books there though, Gail. So
yeah, yeah. I'm late to the party. I live in the South now, but I grew up in the Northeast, just south of Erie. And so we had lakes, but I was on the wrong side of Pennsylvania for the coast. So, and let me also point out that I was in the north of Pennsylvania. So the amount of time you wanted to even think about spending in a swimsuit on near Lake Erie,
very
very
little.
small amount, maybe a parka, maybe a swim parka. It gets cold and the water doesn't warm up. So I was around lakes that might have a shoreline, but they never really factored much into what my gang did when I was growing up. But I always loved the idea of the ocean. I bought the albums and then the CDs and the videos of the lake, of the ocean waves, so you could listen to it and fall asleep on it. And I I absolutely believe everything you guys have said about the magic of the ocean. I've always been drawn to it, although maybe you can't tell here, but I'm very light complected, so I do not tan. And even with serious sunscreen, it's kind of like the beacons of Gondor are lit, because I'm bright red. So my husband and I go to the beach very often, but we rent an umbrella and I'm huddled up in the shadows reading my book, staying out of the sun. He of course tans like a Greek god. And so do our kids. So at least we got to pass that on. But um my mom did a great job of telling me. She was of the era that From Here to Eternity was the big movie, and I remember her saying, "Don't do that. That does not work the way it does in the movie." I don't know how she found that out, but it had the ring of personal experience. So, if you've ever seen the famous makeout scene on the beach from that movie, Google it. It's there. It looks like rolling around in the surf on the beach, fully clothed, would be sexy. I'm not sure how, but you know, it's a famous scene. Um, but now my husband and I go, we did a cruise for our honeymoon. It was the first cruise I had ever been on. We went to Bermuda. I'm now a total convert. And so we do a beach vacation anytime we can fit it in and afford it. And I'd be there more, except, you know, got to get work done. So yes, and as Jeannie pointed out, I've got two main series that are set in beach locations, and then there are also lakes in the Adirondacks in one of my other series. So I love the water. So we've talked about what beaches mean to us and why beaches have that attraction. What is it about a beach romance that is different from other romantic settings? Are we assuming that people are on vacation? In my two series, my characters live in beach towns, Myrtle Beach and Cape May, New Jersey. But do we assume most of the time they're there on vacation, just passing through? Or what is it about putting a love story in a beach town that makes it different from other places you could have set it? Layla?
I think for me, because I, spent so much time like ironically, when Jeannie mentioned Iowa, that's where I'm stuck currently, and I hate every second of it. Um, because I am from coastal, areas. I'm used to a beach. I used to swim the 1.5 mile ocean swim on Saipan, every year when I was on swim team. So to me, setting it on the beach is something that is so familiar to me. It's not about a vacation. It's about giving the characters a chance to be. I hate crowded beaches. I don't like party beaches. I like the quiet cove, private, small, where you can walk along for hours and only the gulls are going to yell at you. And those are the scenes I put in my books because it gives the characters uninterrupted time to talk. They're finding seashells and sea glass, and a lot of my characters are artists. They're picking that stuff up and using it. In the book that I just actually put out, Prayers for the Prickly, it's set on coastal Maine, and it's one of the main characters, my Wolverine shifter. He's from a family of lobstermen, so in the morning, he actually is a driftwood carver. His whole shop is things made out of driftwood. So in the morning, he drags the sled along the sand and he's collecting driftwood. And that's actually where he meets his mate. And really, they'd met once before, but this is where they confirm that they're mates. And it's literally him, um, just he's doing this little dance because he found this big piece of driftwood. And we're talking a big, masculine Wolverine shifter biker character, and he's doing the dance on the beach because he found the perfect bit of driftwood. And his mate witnesses this while he's taking pictures for some candy he's getting ready to make for his candy shop with a beach theme. And all of that just played into the story. Their walks along the beach, the fact that like seafood plays so much into it, that when they need to go think, they can be found on the beach. Their art, a lot of it is inspired by the beach and the coast where they're at. So it's just a natural place in my stories where the characters go, because those were my thinking spots. Those were my romantic moments. Those were the places that, like, if I wanted to brood, I was going to go there, but if I was happy and celebrating, I was going to go there. And I give those moments to the characters and their stories because it's so like pertinent to me, and I have such a connection with it that it's just, that is my go-to place anytime I'm in a coastal setting, period.
All right. Stacey?
So I think one of the things that we've been talking about is sort of like the difference between like a loud party beach and a quiet beach. And like one of the things that I in excuse me, in a story called The Rogue Files, which is actually in the Hope Connection, which is a collection of stories that appeared in 4 different anthologies that I was a part of. My male main character is a journalist from New Jersey. He needed to hide out for a whole bunch of reasons. But where does he hide out? He hides out in an RV area in Virginia, a campground in Virginia Beach, not far from the beach itself, in the middle of winter. It is quiet. It is sort of the perfect place to go in the middle. Again, like who would go to Virginia, unless you live there, unless you know like the joy of the area in Virginia Beach. Like, why would you be there in the middle of winter? Answer: because you're hiding from stuff going down in New Jersey. It's it's quiet. It doesn't often snow in the area, though it has in the last couple of years. It's quiet. It's perfect for someone who is trying to not be noticed. The perfect kind of location to sort of think and contemplate and sort of enjoy like the basic nature when nobody else is around. Also, like we talk about tourist towns, and anybody who's ever lived in a town that's famous for something, whether it's a story, whether it's a landmark, whatever it is, that during those off seasons, you are enjoying the area, you're enjoying the moment, but you're also preparing in the back of your head. And it's funny because that's something that I've written about in a bunch of my books, but specifically in History of Us, which is set on Long Island. It's set sort of on one of the coastal towns on Long Island, and literally like its whole part of its central focus is preparing for a festival for people who are coming to take advantage of the summer on the beaches on Long Island. And like, what are you going to do to get them away? You're going to have them come to this town and enjoy the summer festival. And it has to be gorgeous and it has to be perfect. But again, through the rest of the year, what are you doing? You're just living life, enjoying yourself and preparing for the drama that will come for the influx of tourist season. But yeah, like it's, you have moments in the book where, my main characters in History of Us have a serious conversation on the beach, in Rockcliffe Manor, which is the town that I've made up for the purposes of the story. But at the same time, like they're preparing for this big, huge influx of people that are about to storm in and steal like the quiet moments. So
Okay, BJ?
Well, in Nova Scotia, yes, I'm bragging about my province again.
hey,
You're never more than 45 miles from the shore. So the ocean and the shoreline beaches play a huge part here, even in the wintertime. And our winters are mild compared to the rest of Canada because we're so far south. And we're on a coastal area, which means that the ocean makes things a lot warmer here than it would say out in Ontario or something. And we're only attached to Nova Scotia to New Brunswick by a 15-mile wide isthmus. So that plays a huge part in it. Like the ocean's everywhere here. Like it's like you cannot go anywhere without seeing lobsters because lobster fishery is so big here and everything like that. Now Stacey described a town that sounds like Mahone Bay here. Believe it or not.
oh yeah.
They're like right on the coast. It's a tourist town. Every time you blink, there's something going on there. Like they have the Scarecrow Festival in like October, and all the tourists come see all these decorated scarecrows all around the town. Everybody does it.
Mhm.
They have like these really narrow streets and everything that you can park your car on and just walk around all around Main Street. There's like the tea brewery and all this other stuff. I am going to set a story there, I promise. Because I love that town so much. Under Your Scars has a scene where the Mains are eating at a high-end restaurant, a fictional high-end restaurant there. So, I included both the three churches. They're one of the most photographed spots in all of the province. I mean, Nova Scotia isn't that big. We're tiny. I think Rhode Island isn't that much smaller than we are. That's how small we are, So, but I mean, like the beaches, I've got 3 here that have the beaches feature somehow. Now, could have been they meet on a beach, they're on a vacation down in the Bahamas. They just happen to trip over, well, he trips over her and he sees something exposed because she's asleep and her bikini top just kind of slides off. But anyway, we're not going to go down that road because this is a family show. And like the beach plays a big part and could have been. Stricken, there was a big argument on Queensland Beach, which is in Halifax County here. I don't know why I chose Queensland Beach. I probably because I've been there so many times, even though I grew up here in Lunenburg County. And there's a big argument, but they do make up, and of course, the happy ever after. Honestly, features Blomidon Beach a lot. The characters go there, so Dana, the leading lady, can get pictures of the highest tides in the world to send back to her family, and because she's a photographer and she just is in love with this beach. They also have their first kiss while they're walking along the beach, like on the ocean floor. I mean, like the tides there are about 30 feet, I think, something like that. So it's pretty high. So you think about how low this this ocean floor is and everything. And later on in the book, at about sunset, they're on Blomidon Beach on the landing just before the stairs that you go down. He proposes to her on the beach. like on that landing where they had their, where they had first went for their first date and everything like that. I just thought the sunset, everything would be just perfect for them. And they get married on Blomidon Beach too, which I thought, would be the perfect ending to that book. And I think that's it for beaches.
Jeannie?
Okay, I got so lost and so interested in what everybody was saying, I
Sorry.
forgot the question. No, I was so interested in what everybody was saying, I forgot the question.
It was how the beach figures in your books.
Oh gosh, lots of ways. Um, in one of my romantic suspenses, it is where my heroine goes to think after somebody tries to kill her and burn down her house, and she sort of runs away from home to the beach to stare at the ocean and try to figure her life out, and that's where our hero finds her to bring her back because she's got to come back and figure it out. And my Haven Harbor Witches series, which I think I'm up to 10 or 11 now. It is set in a fictional town on the Maine, Massachusetts border. And so there are a lot of people who are townies, and there are a lot of people who are visitors. And the very first book, The Witch's Walk, actually takes place because the heroine is the new director of the big festival. So it's interesting that you all mentioned that, because one of the things I love about beach settings is you can set a story there in the winter and have it be about the people who are there full time, and that build up to the summer people, or the thank God they're gone from the summer people, or the oh Lord, here come the leaf peepers, and we just got rid of the summer people and here come the leaf peepers. And you can use the people who are permanent, and you can bring in people who were not, who are just visiting, who fall in love with the town and the people there. Or you can have your story be completely about falling in love in that setting and then just having to make their decisions about where they go back to. And I just really love that. And one of the things about it's odd to even mention it in this, in the scheme of the beach, but my friend Nancy Northcott and I write this space adventure series. And oddly enough, two of the stories have to do with the beach on this completely strange planet way out in outer space at the armpit of the universe. And so I think even in, science fiction and fantasy, you've got the beach as this sort of quintessential character that's a staple of fiction and life. But yeah, those two big factors have beachy themes. And it's also something I really love to read, which is why I got distracted by everybody's books. Because I've had the summer romance at the beach, I've been to the beach for, to get away. And I love to go. My favorite, because I'm a burn and peel girl too, fair skin, all that. My favorite time is April and October. That's when I love to go to the beach, because there's nobody there but pale skin me, and nobody cares that I'm pale skin me because April and October. But it's also such a great time to set a story there, because you're a guest, because you're not a townie, and even if you're coming there for an inheritance or something like that, you're sort of an outsider until you're not. And so I love those factors, and I love working them into a story. I just think it's huge piles of fun.
Well, and I've got two series that are set at the beach. My Badlands series, which is set at Myrtle Beach, and my Treasure Trail series, which is set in Cape May, New Jersey. Now, before you ask, what does Badlands have to do with Myrtle Beach? One of my characters is a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. So all the books have Springsteen titles. Otherwise, it has nothing to do with Badlands. But Myrtle Beach and Cape May could not be more different as beaches. Myrtle Beach is in South Carolina, Cape May is in in kind of northern New Jersey. Myrtle Beach is spring break, and it has a huge lit up Ferris wheel on the beach, and it's got Ripley's Believe It or Not, and it's a party town. Cape May, New Jersey has large Victorian hotels, a lighthouse, and a convent. Um, they're different. Cape May is very
Completely different vibe.
completely different vibe. Not that you can't have fun in Cape May, but you're going to do it in a different way. Great food, beautiful beaches, but those Victorian hotels, most of which really do tell people that they're haunted, at least. The convent was just sold to become a lecture center, but it is much more. It's kind of like the Hamptons. It's where the establishment goes to the beach. Um, and it's a lovely place to do the beach. My daughter got married there. That's how I fell in love with it. Um, but no giant Ferris wheel. And spring break would be very frowned upon. Myrtle Beach, on the other hand, let it all hang out. Yeah. Um, very different vibe. And so my couples, who are so it's two longstanding couples who meet them in the first book, and then they move on and their relationship evolves. In each case, one of them is a former cop or former FBI or former law enforcement. So they're kind of keeping the peace in these beach towns. And the other partner is a psychic, or psychic and or medium. So they have some supernatural abilities. Of course, they're always hunting down supernatural killers, supernatural problems, bad ghosts, that sort of thing. So I focus on the haunted part of the beach, and that makes it. I love delving into the local lore and history. And so, Cape May has a set of old railroad tracks that appear and disappear as the beach, in different seasons, as the sand comes in and goes out. It's got a half sunk concrete ship. You can't make this stuff up. So just pulling from the local lore is one of my favorite things, because there are such interesting stories about how people have used the beach for vacation for many, 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 many years. And since we're talking about ghosts, I bring those people right back. Who wouldn't want to come back to the beach? Well, folks, we have torn through our time. And so we have time to very briefly let everybody know where to find you online. And if you have a new, recent, or upcoming book, let us know. Layla?
Well, I am Layla Dorine, and you can find me at Layla Dorine author at wix.com. You can find me all over Facebook. You can find me at Rainbow Lyrics and Mellow Mushrooms, which is my blog. You can find me on Insta from time to time. And my latest release was Prayers for the Prickly. It is part of the Heat, Pray, Love collection of predator prey shifter books that are fated mates. So my fated mates are on a beach in Maine.
Nice. Stacey?
You can find me at staceyagdern.com. S Agdern on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. NY Stacey on the place that is still Twitter in my heart. Stacey A. Agdern on Facebook. And in the Jewish Women Talking About Romance Facebook group. My most recent release is The Dreidel Disaster, and there's going to be some celebrations about that in July. So watch out on my socials for that. And there will be more news about the new Empires Hockey Anthology soon.
Very good. BJ?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Hey Cafe, which is the Canadian version of Facebook. It's a newer site. I'm on Instagram. Oh my heavens, I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm also part of a multi-author newsletter that we're on hiatus right now, but Zach Dawn and I run Scribes Tribune. We're hoping to get back into going with it very soon. Within the next couple of months, we've all been sick, so things have been just like a snafu lately with that. Where that's over on WordPress. I'm on WordPress. But my main blog is on Blogger, Word Processor, Romance, Cats, Kids, and Creed. Is my blog. I host a lot of Silver Dragon tour books, like book tours there. But I'm mostly on Facebook, and I'm also on Linktree as well. So most of my sites are listed there, and I'm on Ecstasy Books website and Decadent Publishing as well.
Okay, Jeannie?
Well, you can find me at jeannieadams.com. You can find me on most of the social media, although I spend way too much time scrolling Instagram for my writing career to be as solid as it should be. You can always find me here on Continual. And my most recent release was in the Mercedes Lackey anthology Feuds. And I've just turned in my story for this year's Smoke and Mirrors, which is fun. And I should have a summer release with my friend Nancy in terms of our space adventures. So trying to catch back up from all the time I had to take off. So really excited about that.
Okay. I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbrice.com. If you spell the names right, you'll find me there and on most of the social media platforms. The it coming up real soon is going to be Signs and Wonders, one of my Witchbane books on audio that comes out a little later this month. And then Cursed, which is the next Witchbane book, will be coming out shortly as well. It's in edits. And I'm working on the next Night Vigil book, which is under the Gail Z. Martin name, but my series all cross over with each other. So a lot of good stuff coming up. And I hope you'll look for us. But thank you so much for being wonderful panelists. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more romance coming up on Continual. So we'll see you online.